Welcome to this explainer. You know, it's wild, but the absolute most common reason your hydrangeas aren't blooming this summer is probably something you did to them last year. Today, we're going to completely demystify hydrangea care and make sure your garden is bursting with massive, vibrant flowers. Whether you're a total beginner or you've been digging in the dirt for decades, hydrangeas are an absolute staple that can completely transform a landscape. But if we want those show-stopping, huge blooms, we need to talk about pruning, why it's so crucial for their health, and exactly how to do it right.
Seriously, we've all been there. You put in the sweat equity, you meticulously prune your shrubs so they look nice and tidy, only to face a totally frustrating bloomless summer. It leaves so many gardeners scratching their heads, staring at their yard and asking this exact question. Your plant is full of green leaves, it looks perfectly healthy, but there isn't a single flower in sight. Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off right now. The #1 most devastating mistake gardeners make is accidentally snipping off the very buds that we're waiting to open. Because hydrangeas grow so differently than a lot of other shrubs, standard pruning practices can actually ruin your entire summer display before it even begins. To make sure you actually get those massive blooms, we've put together a foolproof blueprint for you today. We're going to cover the core secret of hydrangea care, how to identify your plant, the pruning calendar, tools and safety, our step-by-step process, and finally, post-pruning care.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, the core secret.
This right here is the golden rule, folks. You absolutely have to know if your plant blooms on what we call old wood or new wood. Old wood means the plant forms its buds in late summer on the stiff stems that grew the previous year. Those buds sit there completely dormant all winter long. If you cut those stems in the spring, you are literally throwing your summer flowers straight into the compost bin. New wood, on the other hand, refers to flexible green growth that happens this current season. Those buds form incredibly fast and bloom in the exact same year.
Which brings us to part 2, identify your plant. Figuring out which category your shrub falls into is literally half the battle. If you don't have the original plant tag anymore, don't panic, there are some really clear visual clues. The classic big leaf, with those giant, colorful mophead flowers, along with the uniquely shaped oak leaf and mountain varieties, all bloom on old wood. Climbing hydrangeas do too. Now the cone-shaped panicle hydrangeas and the smooth varieties, like the really famous Annabelle, bloom on new wood. And hey, if you're ever in doubt, just observe. If you pruned hard last spring and got 0 flowers, you definitely have an old wood bloomer.
Let's move on to part 3, the pruning calendar. Timing is everything here. Get it wrong and you absolutely stunt your plant's potential. If you have a new wood bloomer like a panicle, prune it in late winter or early spring just before the new growth starts. That actually encourages vigorous growth and much bigger blooms. But for your old wood bloomers like the big leaf, you have to wait until right after the summer flowers fade. That's usually mid to late summer, around July. The one little exception is climbing hydrangeas, which just need a light prune in early summer right after they flower.
Next up is part 4, tools and safety. Before you make a single cutout in the yard, let's talk gear. To protect your plant from injury and disease, you absolutely must use bypass pruners. Because their blades overlap and work exactly like scissors, they make a crisp, incredibly clean slice. You want to strictly avoid anvil pruners for this. Anvil pruners literally crush the stem rather than slicing it. That leaves a ragged wound that takes way longer to heal and practically rolls out the red carpet for fungal infections.
Alongside your bypass pruners, keep a trusty pair of loppers nearby for any branches thicker than an inch. And please always sanitize your blades with rubbing alcohol when moving between plants and keep them oiled and sharpened. A blunt, dirty blade acts just like an infected open wound for your hydrangea, making it so susceptible to pests and disease transfer.
All right, on to part 5, the step-by-step process.
Time for the action phase. Now that you have the right tools and the right timing, here is how you make the perfect health-boosting cuts. Follow these closely. First, clear out any dead, brittle, or crossing stems right at the base to open up the air circulation. Second, when you make your cut, do it at a 45-degree angle about a 1/4 inch above a healthy bud. Why 45 degrees? Because it lets rainwater slide right off rather than pooling on a flat cut and causing rot. Finally, apply our ultimate safety net. That safety net is the 1/3 rule. You should never ever remove more than 1/3 of the shrub at a single time. If you get a little overzealous and chop too much, you risk severely stressing the plant. You'd be removing the sturdy framework that keeps it upright and eliminating the foliage it desperately needs to feed its root system, so take it slow and steady.
Finally, part 6, post-pruning care.
Your plant just went through major surgery, basically. To guarantee that the energy you've just redirected turns into those massive blooms, you need to nurture it. Apply 2 to 4 inches of organic mulch around the base to lock in soil moisture. Water deeply, but make sure the soil is well drained so you aren't waterlogging it. When you feed it in the spring, stick to a balanced, slow-release fertilizer. And listen, you must strictly avoid high nitrogen feeds. Nitrogen promotes leafy growth, which means you'll end up with a giant green bush and absolutely zero flowers.
Now, if you're ever standing out in your yard, pruners in hand, completely unsure about what type of wood you have or if the timing is right, just remember this incredibly comforting secret. When in doubt, don't prune. Seriously, your hydrangea will be perfectly fine and honestly often better off if you just leave it alone. Most of the time, they really only need you to snip off the dead flowers. Minimal interference is often the smartest gardening strategy of all.
Just a quick heads up before you grab your gardening gloves, always consult your local garden center or regional experts. Highly specific climate zones and unique soil conditions can slightly tweak these general rules, so getting that localized advice is always invaluable for the absolute best results.
So now that you've got the complete blueprint for guaranteed blooms, what kind of hydrangea will you be transforming first? Are you going to tackle a massive old wood big leaf, or maybe shape up a new wood panicle? And it really makes you wonder, as you watch your garden absolutely explode with color this summer, what other plants in your yard might just be one proper cut away from reaching their true potential? Grab your pruners and get ready for a stunning display.